You are listening to an independent production. All additional audio elements were provided copyright-free and belong to their respective owners. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Gateway to Eden podcast. Today we have another guest. Today we're listening to Mason talk about Meshtastic. Just a second, here we go. Meshtastic. If you don't already know, Meshtastic is essentially just a small kind of node-based system that allows easy remote transfer of text messages, essentially. It's basically what we have an idea of using this as a backup communication system on the co-op, on the commune, in the event of, cell service going out, internet going out, other similar communications just essentially dropping off the face of the earth. So we still have some kind of backup system, and it is a system that can also connect to a larger grid across the country. Well, maybe not across the country, but you get the idea. Anyway, I'm going to hand it over to Mason, who is...
Oh, just straight away?
Say again?
I said, just straight away? Okay.
Essentially, yeah. Because it's like... sorry. I should probably plug the podcast. So this is an episode of the Gateway to Eden podcast that we have been doing for the last few months, basically talking about how we are going to be building Eden's Gate for real, but also as raging leftists.
And not cultists?
And not cultists. We're not a cult. It's not a cult. I just realized that I did not have my microphone close to my face. All right. Anyway.
Father, someone has joined the project at Tier 1.
Someone has joined the project at Tier 1. Someone just subbed. That's awesome. Yay. Thank you. I forgot to turn off the commands list. That's my bad because it's interrupting the stream. I'm sorry. I love you. I love it when people play with Boomer, but unfortunately this is a more professional stream, so we got to turn him off for now. But I do have...
need to put the other episodes on Spotify.
I do. Yeah. Each one of these podcast episodes is going to be available on Spotify. I have a few more to edit because I'm a little bit behind. That's my fault. I apologize, everybody. But with all of that being said, I do still have Boomer has a question available for you guys to redeem. So if you guys want to...
I should probably actually open the stream so I can see chat.
Yes, yes.
Probably a good play here.
So, anyways, with all of that being said, I will hand over Meshtastic to Mason, if you're ready.
On Twitch, work with me here. Twitch is being a bitch, hang on.
Twitch is always a bitch.
Yeah. I'm trying to use my Prime sub, because I don't want to sit here and watch ads all the time. There we go.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah. If you have Amazon Prime, you have a free Twitch sub.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. I should probably turn that on.
If you just connect them together.
We got a hype train going.
It was me.
Yeah, I know. Oh.
Unfortunately, we're all too broke to continue the hype train.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Shit. What do you want me to start with? Like, really give me a structure here?
I did start with a basic overview. If you want to expand on that a little bit.
I did hear that. Okay. Shit. Fuck. The fucking public speaking, goddammit. Okay. Short explanation to kind of expound on what you had said. It is a node-based, meaning that every device acts as a relay. Whether that's stationary, moving, whatever. Acts as a relay for every message within a certain bandwidth. For the United States, I believe it's 913 to 915 megahertz. And it's primarily a text-based system due to low bandwidth. I think it's like kilobits per second. It's like 1.07 to 6.73. If I remember from yesterday, it can be used for a couple of miles based on traffic, and by traffic I mean actual like network traffic, and the information being sent. It can do images, it just takes for fucking ever, at least from what I've seen online, because images are large. The system is also compatible with GPU, which is one of the primary uses that people will use it for. They'll use it with tractors, as Vic gave us an example with his neighbor. And it's kind of all over the place. People just build them and stick them places. Shit, what else? I think the goal was 5 to 10 nodes for the property, along with the ability to have an emergency broadcast system and some other stuff.
I mean, with how many nodes on the property, that depends on the property, and we're still looking at a
True.
bunch of different properties. So, I mean, we don't have to nail that down, but I remember you were talking about having, series of different stations and then doubling up the actual nodes themselves at each station just as a redundancy, and
We could put them on all the vehicles and use those vehicles as repeaters and have little Bluetooth or Wi-Fi handsets, so you don't necessarily have to have a whole device.
Yeah, most are Bluetooth and they connect to a mobile device. The best way to do it will be Android, because we can use significantly older phones from like 2013, 2014 and be just fine.
I have a little graphic up actually showing, just kind of
Yeah.
a little bit of how this works, and it has two different phones connecting to them by Bluetooth. So, yeah, just like that.
Oh, hey, biddies. She got to tier 2.
Yay! Hype train, let's go!
Woot woot.
And then it's just, the more I look into this, the cooler it is just at how versatile it is. And like you were saying, it's a text-based system. And
For the most part, at least, yeah.
when we were talking about it a little bit yesterday, I was thinking about it, and with it being a text-based system, we could essentially also use it to send different commands. Like if we have a...
66.
Yeah.
Order 66, here we go.
66. I did that way too well. I did
Yes,
not
you
know
did.
I could do a Palpatine voice.
That is,
I am the Senate.
Now,
But yeah, so essentially what I mean to say is, if we send, it's a text, I apologize. While we were talking about it yesterday, it sounded a lot like a group chat, and I know I said that yesterday. It sounds like a group chat, and the way to access the group chat, as you said before, Mason, was there's an encryption key, and you essentially input the key to each of the Meshtastic devices.
I think it's more like a Discord server. And
yeah,
there's
actually.
an invite code, and sometimes a Discord server only has 3 people. Sometimes it's just you.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It still has its own fancy key to get into the server.
Yeah. And so it's what I'm thinking of here with the commands is like we have just essentially a single Discord server, quote unquote, for the for the mesh network. I'm just going to use mesh network for the mesh.
That's what they're. Yeah.
Yeah. For the mesh network. I'm sorry. Okay, we're good. I'm good. I took my meds today, I promise. We can have multiple quote unquote Discord servers going at a single time on the same network, fortunately.
Yep.
But we can have what I'm thinking is we have a dedicated server for sending out commands, various commands, whether it be like, activate emergency broadcast system, activate emergency power generation, or
Fire
everybody get back
at emergency. We have a fire at this location, that location.
Yeah. And then we can have like either a Raspberry Pi or a laptop or any kind of computing device to look at that specific chat and go, oh, I have this command, I need to do this, this, and this to do whatever.
the automation potential is extremely high with this system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now all it comes down to with that is making sure that only a select number of people, in specific, have access to said chat room, so to speak.
Yeah.
Kind of like how
Yeah.
you have an admins only text channel on a server. I'm assuming you have one here.
Yeah, I actually have an entire section
Um,
on the Discord
Okay, well there you go.
that is dedicated to
Just
mods.
want to make sure that it's like that, where you only have 5, 6, 7 people that have access to that.
Yeah, we'll just give it to the
Make sure
IT
that you don't-
people.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And we'll probably have somebody basically working almost as a dispatcher, I figure. That way,
Figured we'd just have the office staff handle that.
yeah, I figure. But that'll help out with emergencies and whatnot.
Because, it'd be really nice to be able to hit a button, send an automatic line of code that, hey, we need 911 ambulance, because the ambulance shows up. Oh, yeah, somebody got a chainsaw lodged in their thigh. Which has happened. I've seen it.
We are going to do everything in our part of me. Doesn't happen.
I used to know a guy who had a chainsaw hit him in the face, and so now he's got this. It's cool, but it's also a nasty scar just going diagonal down his face, like Scarface, actually. So,
Rule number 1: do not get a chainsaw stuck in your face.
yes, that's
Yeah.
Rule
preferable.
number 2, wear the
Yeah.
safety equipment.
Yes, I believe we discussed that.
Yep. And rule 3, don't be stupid.
Yep,
I thought "Don't be stupid" was rule 1.
No, that's rule 5.
that's further down the priority list.
But also,
Now-
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask on this with the encryption level, because I did notice that it does have encrypted communication.
Correct.
Do you know kind of what system they're using on the encryption, or is that native encryption, or are we coming up
Give me
with the
1
encryption?
second, and I can give you an answer to that.
Yeah, because I know this was brought up in our discussion prior to the podcast, but that was one major thing, like you were saying, with the, with automation tied in, with dispatching.
It uses PKC, public key
PKC?
cryptography.
Okay.
According to their website, that's what it says.
Okay.
This is not a system we're sending.
Yeah. Each node has a public and a private key set. It's a pair. And direct messages are encrypted with the recipient's public key, and they use the private key to decrypt it.
Okay.
And I mean, fortunately, we wouldn't be using this system to, transfer secret or sensitive, that's the word I'm looking for, sensitive data. It's just going to be, to essentially allow communication in the event of the lack of.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they don't collect any kind of data or anything because it's not. LoRa itself is just the network type, but Meshtastic does not connect to GPS unless you have, or any kind of satellite network, unless you have the modules on it.
Okay, so basically what we'd be doing is we'd be using this for communication, dispatching, emergency stuff like that.
It's a
Yeah.
closed
Yeah.
network essentially.
But we would not necessarily be tying this into like critical systems or critical
Probably
infrastructure.
Not,
I'd
probably
rather not.
Yeah, it would
Like,
probably be like a tier 3 thing where it's not
Mhm.
like priority or even like necessary. It's the like rudimentary.
Like in case of emergency.
It is the oh fuck, shit is going down. We need to make sure that these people know what's happening because these, EMS is going to be on its way, for example.
Yeah, because
Or we'll have a sat phone to call EMS, shit like that.
And I mean,
If there's no cell service.
in the event of a 911 emergency, we could also set up something like a Raspberry Pi where you just hit a button, input what's going on, or it could just be a series of buttons. You hit a button for 911, you hit a button for the type of emergency, and hit a button for what happened, or at least a summary of what happened. And, that'll be relayed along the mesh network to something that will either make the call or notify one of us who can make the call.
Yeah, and it takes a couple of seconds to get through if it's bouncing between multiple relays, but it is possible to get it within 3 or so seconds.
And mind you, we will still have walkie-talkies. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cell phones.
So
this is a system for emergencies and for, send out a message to main office. Need fuel for dozer this part of the property.
It's
There
like,
you
we
go.
need diesel over here, or we need two-stroke fuel for a chainsaw or whatever.
Yeah.
I need a dispenser over here. I've been watching
Unit
a bunch.
57 has broken down. Here's what happened.
I've been watching too many Team Fortress 2 videos recently.
It's also great for accidentally let Broseph drive the dozer. It's in the ditch now. Sound the camera too.
The camera
I will
team.
be on my way. That is going to be great PR. I'm going to plug that in our marketing program. It'll be great.
You know, it's just the camera team is just a single FPV drone that's recording. And all it is, it just goes right up to the cab, upside down.
Hey guys.
He's just strapped in upside down.
And how did we end up here? I don't know, man.
This is where we
You have a
point
little
live.
speaker on it. You have a little speaker on it that just starts playing music.
It's just playing the Far Cry 5 soundtrack.
Oh, I was thinking more like Highway to Hell or something,
Benny Hill,
or that.
100% Fortune to the Sun all the way across the property.
24/7, 365 at max volume.
That's wild.
Only You starts playing across the entire property.
God.
I hear that song, I know we're in trouble.
Okay,
That
I'm
would be an
sorry.
interesting way
Tangent
to
side note, but what if we do that? Like, what if we have
What, like in a
speakers? Yeah, we have speakers mounted everywhere, and we just send out the command to start playing Only You, and everybody starts hearing it, so then they know, oh shit,
It's time to poop the pants.
battle
Wear your brown
stations,
pants.
everybody. That's our
Ohio
battle
Matching
stations song.
Is only used for the feds.
Hey, if they suspend
Sorry,
habeas
that's just where my
corpus,
brain went to.
hey, if they
It's just
suspend,
like, yeah.
if they suspend habeas corpus,
Only You. Oh my god.
Prevent forest fires. That's what we're talking about. Forest fires.
hold on.
But Smokey the Bear got retired, so
We'll take
I
his
did not.
place.
You can bring him back.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Mom. Love you too. Thanks.
It's a very nice plate.
Thanks, Mom.
Test. There we go. Okay, sorry everyone. I didn't notify my mother that I was streaming today doing the podcast, but ta-da, I have a plate now. A lot of
As
you
you
may
should.
be a lot of you may be confused as to why I have this plate. This
Okay,
plate
I'm glad
is
I am not the only one thinking that.
So I live, as you already know, I live in Minnesota. I live in the southeastern foot of Minnesota. Nearby, there's a town called Red Wing. Red Wing was you may know Red Wing because of Red Wing shoes, but
I
Red
wear them
Wing
every day.
yeah, Red Wing is. Shut up, Alexa. My Alexa went off. Red Wing is situated on the Mississippi River, and because of that, it became a very large hub for a bunch of different stuff, including pottery. This plate is actually a specific art style called Bob White, pardon me. And my mother recently became a vendor for Bob White pottery. She has over 250 pieces that she is selling.
That is awesome.
Yes.
a lot.
It's a very beautiful plate, and I actually really like the style myself. I am not going to leave this on my desk. I'm going to put it somewhere safely. She sent me a text earlier, but I have not read anything from her.
I bet you that's what the text was about.
It's funny you say Red Wing because my biological father used to live in Red Wing.
Oh, wait, what?
Yeah, my biological father used to live in Red Wing, and the last time I was there, we moved him down to Nebraska.
That is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, small
because,
world.
Like, yeah, a lot of my family actually
I have a
were
funny
in
story.
Red Wing.
It's Small World.
A lot of my family were actually in Red Wing for a while. Another thing with pottery, part of my family used to work at the pottery store or the pottery manufacturing plant that made these plates, which is, why it's so relevant to us. But apparently my mother wants me to because I do 3D printing, my mother wants me to design some kind of jig so that she can drill a hole in this and make it into a clock.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I'm going to go put this somewhere safe. You guys can continue. I'll be right back.
That's
I don't have anything
Pretty
else
cool.
to say. So
Sure
I know
about that?
line of the range on these things, line of sight, material blockages,
a lot of that
range
comes down
effects.
to- yeah, a lot of that just comes down to the property itself. Because foliage density is going to be our biggest, and by foliage I mean bushes, trees, anything there. We're trying to find a pretty flat piece of land anyway. But if we don't,
I
got
do
good
know that-
elevation, that'll come
Yeah.
into effect as well. But for the most part, it's going to be tree and foliage density is going to be the biggest.
One of the things I did look up is directional antennas for this.
Yeah.
Okay, not omnidirectional.
I mean, we can do omnis, but for other things, like if we can get a mounting point high enough, we can run a directional antenna across the co-op.
Yeah, I know we talked about this yesterday, but that was one of our major concerns with the LoRa system and the Meshtastic system itself was going to be the range effectiveness, property considerations, which was going to directly impact the range of our communications network.
Yeah.
And the terrain we are going to be dealing with, because again, it's kind of hard to get signal through a mountain.
Yeah, so...
And it's kind of hard to find flat ground in New England.
Yeah, so assuming that we have elevation, very likely what will happen will be most nodes will sit higher up, either on a tree or on a pole, which will mitigate some of that elevation change. Not all of it, but some. Or at least enough that the Omni antennas won't get totally fucked over by it. But even then, the range should, keyword should, still stick out far enough that 5 or 6 nodes, depending on property size, 5 to 6 nodes should be enough to cover the entire property.
At the
Now, I
start.
would rather have
Yeah.
double that for redundancy, but...
And I mean, the other thing with that is the nodes are. I just realized the nodes are going to be more. What's the word? Dense. That's the word. The nodes are going to be more dense around the areas that we are working in regularly. The rest of the property is probably going to have, for every 2 or 3 nodes we have in the work areas, we're probably going to have one out in the middle of the remote area of the property.
Yeah,
and that's probably just to get to specific stations too.
Yeah, really.
Well,
most of the network will come down to the mobile stations, but the stationary hubs and relays will act as relays for those mobile networks. They may not even reach each other. It may just be that those nodes are enough to bounce between 2 work groups, and those work groups connect to different nodes. And so they just make a long line that the signal eventually connects to the person it's supposed to connect to.
Yeah.
So, I know Russ is a veteran, but you guys are you guys familiar with the OE254 system that we used? I did check. This is declassified. I'm currently looking at a public website for the OE254 communication system or communication antenna, and it appears this functions a lot like the OE254, which is used for inter-unit communications, just on a different frequency.
Oh yeah, I have one of those.
And the reason I say this is because my former MOS was 13 Foxtrot, which I dealt with these very extensively, and it seems like we're going to be doing a similar relay system to the OE254s with the nodes actually functioning as our radio communication systems in specific with the on-site encryption.
Essentially, yes. But, I mean, it won't be radio, obviously, because it's LoRa. But, yes, in terms of how it'll function, it's very similar.
Okay.
The only difference being that most of them probably won't be pole-mounted, they'll be tree-mounted. But the idea is basically the same. Yes.
Okay.
I speak for the trees.
And the trees have lag bolts in them now.
And they're speaking Vietnamese.
If our trees are speaking Vietnamese, we should invite them in for lunch.
And at least let them know that the kimchi needs to be brought in.
We should be culturally sensitive and build them rooftops to live on.
So yeah, being the red leg that I am, I have a really good idea how the system is going to work, and this has addressed most of my concerns with security, with ranges, what we're going to need to do to extend range if necessary.
Yeah, to extend range, all you do is add another station.
Yep. You just add another node.
You pre-add the keys. No, actually, you don't even need to do that. Because once the network once they're in range of each other, they all act as relays if they're set up to do so. So the way that we have it set up is every one of the base stations will only act as a relay. You won't actually be able to text those relays at all. And that's a setting that you actually set the station as, or you set the board as in the firmware, where it only acts as a signal booster and not as a receiver.
Okay. And then there is one more major topic that I would like to get into because it's cost. I know
$30 to $40 a node.
So $30 to $40 a node, and if we're looking at
figures $75 with all batteries and all the batteries and the panels to go with them. I think these $65 to $75 a node will be at most.
And so for the budgetary options and the reason I talk about this is
$100 per node. We're probably going to want 65, 75 nodes.
We need like
Anywhere near that.
10 to
Yeah,
15
we need like
nodes.
maybe 10, maybe.
We would
Because these
need
nodes, each of these nodes, even
Let
with
me
high
finish.
density,
Let me finish, because we're going to eventually want to expand the network. We're going to want more, and it's easier to have if we already have them on hand and know how to work it to add units than it is to, oh crap, we need more, and then I have to wait a week or more to get another node.
I mean,
We
Yeah.
could also shit and 3D print our own cases. So we just buy the node chips and maybe a bulk
Yeah.
order solar panels, and then fit the nodes into our own 3D printed watertight enclosures
we could do that.
and save bucks.
It'll probably, depending on that, but for the base stations at least, we can probably, it'll be 65 a node. We'll only need maybe 8 of those for the whole property to start, and so it's not going to be really expensive.
Yeah.
so
honestly.
520 estimated startup cost for the initial landing network.
It'll probably be more like 650, 700 for the total network.
I mean, regardless, compared to everything else that's being,
Oh, it's going to be dirt cheap.
yeah,
It'll
yeah.
be under 1,500.
And I mean,
So,
I've got on screen right now a bunch of they're fully assembled. They have their own. They're fully assembled. They have their own the
cases and shit.
enclosures. Yeah, cases, enclosures,
Yeah,
and
that
such.
what you're looking at, that 25, that's the case for a T-deck.
No,
That's just
I'm
the case.
looking at this one's 82, but it's a pack of 2, and it's the boards, it's the antennas, it's all of the stuff put together.
So
but it's that's
basically,
still pretty
it'd be
cheap,
those.
which is awesome.
it'd be something similar to that, just with a larger battery and a solar panel on it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, even
Watertight,
with
obviously, but that's basically those nodes that you were looking at that were like 83 or about $40 a piece. Those are what people would have on them for that type of thing. We'd obviously want higher power antennas for the base stations so that they reach a little further. But other than that,
I mean, I was about to ask about that. Like, what kind of antennas can we use? Like, as far as I can tell, it's...
there's many types. There's both the most common ones are going to be ceramic, which are the solid ones that are basically just straight up, and those are going to be the best omni antennas for them, especially for the base stations. But some of the boards come with a smaller antenna on them. That
Just built
can
in,
already
kind of?
tune into it. Yes, built into the board. It looks like a little coil. If you look at some of the boards,
I have
an
one pulled
onboard
up on
antenna.
Amazon right now. Maker Focus ESP32
Yeah, right there.
LoRa.
Yeah, it's that
And
little
it's-
it's that little brass coil. That's the antenna.
Yeah. Oh, that?
Yes, that's the antenna for that board. Is that little brass coil.
Yeah. Nice. I love it.
So that's when I say that the only ones that will need a static antenna will be the base stations and maybe the ones on the vehicles. But if it's not one of those two, the ones that are on the boards will be enough for the handhelds.
I'm still running around with a ribbon antenna.
But the
it's-
ceramic ones are inexpensive. Those are the ones that are, it's a brass fitting, or I think it's brass at the bottom, and then it's just a black tube up. They're a ceramic antenna. and those work great.
Yeah, those are kind of just like the walkie-talkie antennas. It's not the one I have
Similar,
on
yes.
screen right
Yeah,
now, but it's my brother has one that's just this tiny little short one that is just
those. They also make ones similar to that, but the ceramic ones are solid all the way up, but they're only like 4 or 5 inches long. And those would work great for the base stations because those typically have a 1 to 3 mile range in heavy obscurity. So,
but basically,
it's one of those that,
so my understanding is essentially, we can use almost any kind of antenna for these guys, just as long as, like if it's a high-powered antenna, we have some kind of adapter and an amplifier.
I was like, if it can fit into that bandwidth of the 913 and 917 megahertz, it can be used.
Perfect.
If it can tune into that frequency specifically and broadcast in that frequency, we're fine.
Awesome. I love that.
So we could have one super node that has a 20-mile radius. Maybe not like a great plan, whole redundancy thing, but it is, I believe, technically possible to get an antenna that can fit in that range. And the reason that we go in that range is because any lower or any higher is like a really bad idea.
Isn't it like that small range is a public band that you don't need a license for? That's the whole thing, right?
And if you go any lower, I believe it's military. I think any higher, it's commercial airliners, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the 80 megahertz, 33 to 80 megahertz is typically what you would see military-wise, at least ground operations. Yeah. Aviation, military is going to be a little bit higher than that, and then higher than the band that you're showing here on these is going to be, commercial airliners, and now we're impeding into FAA and its problems.
The 913 and 917 is like a Goldilocks zone that they leave for people like us.
And like
any lower and you're in military, any higher you're in commercial, and it's either of them is not good for you.
And like talking about that band specifically, one of the reasons why we're looking at this instead of something like ham radios is you need licenses to operate ham radios as opposed to operating within this band, which is, you don't need a license for, like I said.
It's open source and free to use.
Yeah. Yeah, open source. Like all of these nodes are open source. You can get parts, as I was showing earlier. You can get parts. You can print your own enclosures, like Vikro was talking about. There's this. I found a module that literally looks like a BlackBerry that just needs a case. But I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so those are about $100 for a full unit, and those are an AIO. Versus something like the ones that are 30 to 40 a unit. Those require a separate device.
That'll connect via Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and even USB.
And then it basically acts as a middleman between the phone and the LoRa network.
Yeah, I love that. That is awesome. And, what was I saying? Right. Yeah, you did mention earlier about using Android phones for all of these because we can, and not just
Lollipop 5.0, which is from 2014.
And it's like it doesn't have to be old phones either. You can get cheap. You can get cheap new Androids for like a couple $100s a pop, and they'll still have the OS system that works with these.
I personally would rather get an old phone and then get like a massive battery for it that fits onto that phone, and just have a super long battery life on a shitty phone that's connected to it, or just use my phone.
Yes, and then like
because I have the Meshtastic app on my phone. So,
yeah, and that's the thing, everyone listening to the podcast and watching the live stream right now. That's the thing. That's the restriction. It's the app, not the Bluetooth, not the Meshtastic nodes. It's the app that provides that restriction, and it's almost no restriction at all. It as Mason was saying, it works all the way back to an OS system from 2016. You said
2014.
2014. There we go.
It works on Lollipop 5.0, which that's the Android version. I don't know about iOS, but Android is going to be cheaper no matter what there.
Yes.
And yeah, Lollipop 5.0 it was released in August of 2014.
If you say we're putting anything on iPhone for the co-op, I will
I was
protest.
going to
God,
suggest a
no.
Nokia 3310.
God,
Oh, yeah.
no. Okay. I apologize. I apologize. I actually just had this kind of conversation, except it was about printers instead of iPhones.
No, we're not
do
going to put it on a Nokia 3310.
I have one that has 3G.
The Nokia 30, you can't kill it.
It's the brick for a reason.
Hey, I
Exactly.
did have a Nokia
Don't know that it
smartphone at one point, and I actually rolled over it with my truck, and it didn't die. So, but it operated
rolled
off
over-
of a Windows type OS system.
I
But
have
that's
rolled
beside the
over a
point.
Nokia with a Taylor 550. Still worked.
I don't think it runs off of Android, so I don't think we can use.
And then
The Nokia Puff runs off of
It runs
iOS,
off
Linux.
I just had a thought. If it's specific to Lollipop and an Android
That's
OS
just the
system,
smallest version that it can use.
yeah.
It could use anything
but
from that point.
But hold on, Mason. Hold on. If it can operate off of an Android OS system, it doesn't mean it's restricted to Android alone. There are several different OS systems that will mimic Android to the point that that Android apps can still be used, the SDKs and such. So it doesn't actually have to even be on Android. It's so versatile. We could essentially have it on almost any kind of phone now, when you think about it.
Probably, yeah.
Which
I don't know.
honestly, that's awesome. More open source, more versatility, and it's a pretty inexpensive system to begin with. Even if we went with Android and quote unquote proprietary, I know it's not actually proprietary, but like the kind of the name brand stuff, rather opposed to the off-brand
The
stuff.
Samsungs instead of the Alcatels or whatever.
Yeah. So I love that. That's awesome. That's incredibly
it has a
useful.
lot-
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have the money to get one of these guys myself yet. But I will probably be playing with this in a little bit. That's awesome. I love this network. And if anyone's wondering why, the reason I was excited for this episode is because having a network like that is kind of one of the things that I wanted. I know I was joking about it when I first brought it up during my series of videos when I was talking about building the cult for real on TikTok, is, in the event that there is an emergency, in the event that there is a catastrophe like, what we see at the end of Far Cry 5, we're going to need a communication system like this. And to have a communication system that is so versatile, so accessible, and so inexpensive is awesome. Plus, it's open source, which means there's a giant community behind it that will help us figure stuff out. We don't have to go to a proprietary business or anything to figure out what's wrong with the
Luckily,
system.
This is a scenario where you can use the phrase "when in doubt, ask Reddit," because there's
Exactly.
a massive community of people on Reddit who do Meshtastic.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, I've been asking people a ton of questions about setting up a mobile one.
Yeah.
And Reddit's just been like, oh, yeah, you just gotta go here.
The documentation already exists.
Yeah. Hell, there's even, like, tutorial videos on YouTube on how to set all of this stuff up.
Oh yeah. And it only takes like 15 minutes a node to do it all.
That's awesome.
Oh, I see what the IT team is doing now.
I mean, very likely
One of the
what we'll do is
things-
set them up beforehand and then put them away, or like pre-flash them essentially, and then pack it away.
I see the IT team having to do Meshtastic nodes, Android phones, and probably, like, Linux books or something for the operators in the field.
Yeah, there's a bunch of options on how to do it.
Yeah,
Anyways, so awesome. I love it.
there's a lot of automation options with this, and I can see you setting up automated notifications to go out.
I mean, it's a text-based system, so yeah, like sending out specific commands that essentially we could. I know
Like for the aquaponic, low water.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't even
you could
think about
add-
that. When we have various
Yeah.
systems like the aquaponics or other
You just have
agricultural farming stuff, it could send
raspberry.
us alerts and status updates.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
what you do is you hook up sensors to a microcontroller essentially, or a PC, and then those PCs monitor and can send out an alert to specific team leads or whatever.
I can't wait until we get like the advanced stuff set up for this and be like unidentified MQ-1 Reaper drone spotted overhead. UAV.
I do not want
Oh
to get
my
that
gosh,
notification.
okay,
Thank you.
Okay.
That's an
AC
only
130
you
above.
notification.
It's an only you thing.
Okay. Now we can start going on tangents. The original presentation is done. Let's go on tangents now. Reaper Jones spotted, sends out an alert, only you starts playing, suddenly an anti-drone turret, EMF turret pops out of the ground, points at the
It's just
Reaper,
15
boom.
Yeah, it's just 15 laser pointers from the dollar store. Robotic tracking mount.
Initiate kaleidoscope protocol.
I saw someone who has been setting up one of those things. It's a stupid high-powered IR spotlight.
That's fun.
It literally unfolds from his shed. He's like, I can fry any camera up to 5 miles out.
The correct option.
I mean, that's one way to do it.
We're not just frying the system, we're frying everything.
I hope you're bulletproof because this is gonna hurt.
Okay, so another tangent.
Is that legal? Are those level 4 vests? We gotta go.
At a level 5A vest.
Okay, so another tangent. I'm looking at the chat right now. B-Civ says B-Civ and Raya were talking about the phones connecting to the Meshtastic network, and basically it's again restating that this network the app works with an Android from 2014, and I want to say if you manage to have an Android phone that is
that old.
that old, that's impressive. That's impressive. Having an Android that is older than 2014, having an Android that is older than 2014, that's an accomplishment.
I have two.
Do they still work?
Hey, listen, my
They still work.
My first phone was a lime green 5C.
I can do one better.
I
I have a
3310.
Gen 1 video iPod.
Damn.
We're not even talking about the back phones today.
The first one was a 3310 that I still use as my emergency phone.
I had
The
one of
battery will
those
still last 40
crappy.
days.
I had one of those crappy track phone with the T9 keyboard on it. That was my first phone. And then I had a
I was
BlackBerry.
not allowed to have
The
a phone
second
until I
phone
could
was a
buy it
Razr.
myself. So I did not have one until the Samsung Messenger 3.
My parents stuck me with a cell phone because I was doing a lot of remote area camping, and they wanted me to be able to call 911.
Yeah, I didn't get the BlackBerry until I started going to high school because high school was about 12 miles away. So, yeah, same.
Yeah, I had mine from middle school because that's when I started riding the bus. And my mom wanted to make sure she could get a hold of me. So, yep.
But yeah, also, again, to restate, like, if you don't have a phone from 2014, again, we can get cheap
You can use
smartphones
anything newer,
that...
too.
What?
It could use anything from 2014 up.
Yeah,
It
I
could
know.
use any phone from
I
then
know.
to now.
Like,
So
like,
you
like I
have
was
an
saying, like I was
S23,
about to
you
say,
can
like
use
we
that.
can still get quote unquote new phones, just cheap new smartphones, because now making a smartphone is so inexpensive for most people. We can get a knockoff brand that is $100 to $200 at the most. Because I know they make smartphones for under $100 sometimes in some places, and
I'm pretty
I
sure
was
you can
looking at
build your own smartphone at this point.
and I was looking at the apps for it, and I see F-Droid and Play Store, and it's like, so we can get these open source APKs that go on pretty much almost anything, because there are those $60 phones that are under $100 smartphones that I was talking about. Those run off of either Android or an Android adjacent that these things will work on. So it's an incredibly versatile system. I'm just restating the obvious again. It's an incredibly versatile system that we can use and easily set up, and I love it so much because of that. Sorry.
See, now we just have to get funding figured out.
Yeah, we do. We do.
I just got out of finals, so we'll get it figured out.
See, and then once that's solved, then we can actually get like plans started, like actually rolling and not just talking.
I can't wait to become an employee.
I am not looking forward to doing all of that paperwork, but hey, it'll be done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
trust with you if you want to keep your sanity.
I was about to say, Broseph, I will add you on Discord because I'm going to use you to complete all of these four.
Oh, I know. I know.
Because I'm like, I've already been looking into building as a website, and I was looking and I'm like, wait a second, I don't have any imagery, but I can get the domain. What do I need to do here?
So we do have
I'll just
some
talk to
imagery
Broseph later.
already. Last Christmas, Silver actually designed a bunch of different logo variations of Eden's Gate. Thank you so much, Silver, again for those. So I'll share the
Best
files with
Christmas
you
present.
if you want to use them. What?
Best Christmas present I
Yes.
ever had to pay for.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And I'll get that taken care of now, so I don't forget it. And I will.
I
Yeah,
also
start
had
dragging you into forms and stuff.
I had another idea for, well, another website we could run.
Oh.
I saw this on TikTok, so this is not my idea. But what
Okay.
about a website for Project 2029 of just all of the most leftist ideas into a playbook?
You know, thinking about this, I don't think that would be that hard to build. I would just need to take the lists from some of our internal documents and expand on it with the assistance of everybody here. And I think we could come up with a Project 2029 and just start plugging it everywhere.
Yes.
I thought it was 28. I thought we were trying to push for 28.
Well, remember,
Yeah,
it was
2028.
Project 2025 instead of 2024, so, that's why 2029.
That's because 2028 is the election year.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's awesome. But also, speaking of websites and hosting and such, I am trying to get a Minecraft server hosted. So if you guys want to hang out on that too, we're gonna. I think if we do have a website being hosted, I'm probably gonna try and use the same hosting site as the Minecraft server, because then it's just kind of 2-in-1. Unless there's any
One less thing
any
to go
issues with
concerned
that.
about.
Because the website I'm looking into for hosting the Minecraft server also does, a bunch of other types of hosting, including website domains and such. So, but that's beside the point. That's a tangent.
Yes.
Do we have anything
More
else to
tangents?
talk about on the Meshtastic network?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, we have
Okay.
addressed costs, we've addressed ranges, we've addressed the hardware, software. I don't have any other questions. I'm about as clear as mud on this one.
All right, cool. And if anyone, so leaving with that, anyone who wants to know more about Meshtastic Network on their own, go to meshtastic.org, or you can just type in Meshtastic into Google and it'll be the first thing that's there. Other than that, awesome, cool, I love it. We'll see everybody for next time, where we're going to have Avery talking about trains, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Possibly narrow gauge setup or
Narrow
train
gauge
setup.
setup for the
25
transport.
minutes to explain.
We're going to have our own little transportation system that doesn't require cars, but
That sounds expensive.
probably.
When you get a bunch of rail fans together,
The initial investment is going to be expensive, but the long-term cost savings is going to be significant.
Okay,
And
but
I think
listen,
everybody loves trains.
so I can give
Listen.
a teaser of what we're thinking. Is that we want to have a cargo rail that goes around the property, and then a light rail that goes through as a sort of like transit system, so you can get on and get off anywhere.
we can talk about it more next time, Vic-Roll. We're coming
Yeah, I
up
was just doing a
at an
teaser.
hour on the podcast, but yes. So,
I
because
figured
literally...
we were just gonna cut it off once we started tangenting.
literally, this entire podcast series has just been jumping from one autistic rant to another. And with all due respect, Mason, and I say this with all the love in my heart, this was very much an autistic rant too. But we love it.
Yeah.
We love it. Okay? It's awesome. Anyways,
Still tangential.
Blink
anyways,
twice if you're being held hostage.
I'd rather not tick right now, thank you.
we're all being held hostage by our own autism. Anyway,
They stapled my eyes open.
with all of that being said, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning into the live broadcast, for listening to our podcast. But with all of that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't add to the population. Don't subtract from the population. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Don't do anything I would do. I'm not bailing you out of jail. And always remember to hydrate. Have a great weekend, everybody. Anybody got anything else?
Be safe and enjoy.
What'd you say, Mason?
Hydrate or die straight.
Father, I has a question.
Oh, Boomer has a question.
No promises.
Boomer's question.
No promises. Traveling gamer.
It's not a question. Try again.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next time. Have a great day and have a great weekend. All right. Bye. This has been the Gateway to Eden podcast. Please join us again.